What is the best leash to use for dog fence training? Let's find out. Hey folks, it's Adam with Outdoor Pet Solutions, and today I want to talk a little bit about the type of leash you should be using when you're conducting your invisible dog fence training. So you have several options out there when it comes to leashes. You've got standard leashes, you've got retractable leashes, and then you have various different harnesses and collars. It may get a little overwhelming as to understanding what type of leash you should be using. The reason the leash is important is because of the type of training that you're conducting. So typically, dog trainers will teach you how to walk your dog, how to get them to heel, to where they're not leading too far in front of you as you're taking them for a walk, and they're not falling behind. You want them right next to your side as you walk with a nice loose leash, and then that way you're in control of your dog, but they're not dragging you down the road. And all of that is correct when it comes to teaching your dog how to heel and walk with you. But this type of training to teach your dog to walk with you can kind of hinder the process of teaching them their boundaries when it comes to electronic dog fencing. I run into this a lot. A lot of my customers I've installed for have done a great job training their dogs, teaching them to heel right next to them. So as they're trying to conduct the dog fence training, what will happen is they'll approach the flag barrier, and when they stop walking, the dog stops walking. Or when they start walking, the dog starts walking. So the dog is simply just following the owner's lead. To help invisible dog fence training to go smoothly, using a very short leash and hugging the dog to your side is going to be a little cumbersome. And it could be a little confusing for your dog because you're going through the flags and then allowing the dog to go with you, and then you're quickly coaching them back out of the flags. It'll take a period of time for the dog to understand that you're not wanting them to go through the flags. So an easier way to accomplish this is changing up the type of leash that you're using. Let's start with addressing the type of collar you should be attaching the leash to. First note is you never want to attach the leash to your fence receiver collar. The reason is if you tether to one of these loops on the collar strap, you'll be digging these probes into the dog's neck. So a standard collar is what you should be using to tether to your dog when you're conducting the fence training. A standard nylon collar will work just fine. Just make sure it's good and snug around the dog's neck and it's not liable to slip off over their head. Stay away from choke chains, prong collars. All those types of devices are typically used to try to teach your dog to stop pulling on the leash. You will be pulling on the leash periodically through the fence training, and you don't want to be digging those prongs or having a choke chain around your dog's neck when you're conducting this type of training. Another type of collar device to stay away from are these harnesses. So the harness, these are nice and comfortable for your dog, but these typically will slide off your dog very easily. So these definitely stay away from, especially if you have a timid dog that isn't used to being on a leash. They're going to be pulling on you. So always stick with a standard nylon around the neck style collar instead of the harness. Now let's talk about leashes. Of course, you have standard leashes. They're rope style leashes or flat nylon leashes, and they come in various lengths, anywhere from 3 feet on up to 20 feet if you want a really long one. As I mentioned before, when you're walking your dog around the neighborhood and you're wanting them to heel next to you, a short leash is very helpful. But when it comes to fence training, you want some distance between you and your dog. You want them to be able to interact with the boundary without you misleading them, so to speak. If you have a very short leash and you walk towards the boundary, they're just going to follow right with you. To give them a sense of a little bit more freedom in the yard and allow them to go interact with those boundaries, you're going to want a very long leash. You want some distance between you and your dog. The longer, the better. If you do get a very long leash, a standard leash, it can become very cumbersome while you're trying to work your dog around the yard, because when you're walking your dog around the boundary and they go beyond the flags and that's your cue to coach them back, you've got all this extra leash hanging there that can become a trip hazard for your dog, getting wrapped around them. You're constantly reaching down and trying to undo the slack. So to eliminate all that hazard, a retractable leash is the way to go. A retractable leash gives you all that extra length while keeping a little bit of tension on the leash so that it doesn't become a trip hazard. Also, it gives your dog a little bit of sense of freedom to where they can understand they can venture further away from you and allow them to go interact with that boundary. And as soon as they cross through the flags, that's your cue to then lock the leash, and that will give a little bit of a tug on your collar, signaling to them that it's time to retreat out of the flags and give them their positive reinforcement reward as it's laid out in lesson 1 through the gentle approach training process. And it helps eliminate all the up and down, in and out of the flags that you would have to do if you had a normal standard leash. This allows you to stay back away from the boundary, allow your dog to venture off into the flag line if there's a distraction outside the boundary or whatnot, and allow them to interact. When they hear the warning tone, lock the leash, and they'll come running back to you and you can reward them. Now, when it comes to retractable leashes, there's only one brand that I stick with. There's a lot of different options. You can go to the dollar store and get you a retractable leash, but it's not gonna last very long. The only brand that I use is Flexi. This is not a paid sponsorship or anything like that. I have been using the Flexi brand leashes for years. These are a German-made product, and they are high-end leashes. They are durable. I've dropped them a million times. They never break. They do come in a few different styles. They have a rope style tether. This is a flat nylon style. I haven't noticed a huge difference in one or the other styles. They both work really good, but they come in a variety of sizes. So if you have a very large dog, this is the large dog size, and then it steps down from there for a smaller dog. And the biggest changes between the smaller ones and the larger ones, aside from the amount of length you get, it's the weight of the actual clasp. So this spring-loaded clasp that you attach to your dog's collar is much smaller on the smaller dog retractable leashes, because if you connect this big clasp to your little dog, it will be weighing them down quite a bit. So get the proper size retractable leash, and if you do have different size dogs in your home, I would suggest getting the proper size leash for each dog. These are fairly inexpensive, believe it or not, even though they're really well made. I believe the large even is less than $20. And they're widely available. You can buy them on Amazon. You can even run up to Walmart. They stock them on the shelf at Walmart. But what I really like about these, besides the durability and the ease and smoothness of the leash, is the way it locks. A lot of these retractable leashes have got a really goofy spring-loaded trigger. Some of them don't lock in place. Some of them are just the hold and release. But these Flexis, when you lock it, you press the button there, and then if you want to keep that length locked, you just push up on the little lock there, and now it's going to stay until you push back down on the lock, and then the button releases and you're able to use it as normal again. Now I don't ever typically lock it like that unless I need the dog to stay put next to me. During fence training, I'm just locking and releasing, because they go past the boundary. Bam, gonna lock it and then let go so they can run back to me and I can give them their reward. So that's a quick explanation on what style of leash I highly suggest you use for the dog fence training, and as well as the type of collar you should be tethering to. As a friendly reminder, don't ever tether to the receiver collar. You don't want to be digging those probes into your dog's neck. I hope that information helps you in getting through the training process of teaching your dog their new boundaries. If you're in the market for an invisible dog fence system and you're looking to install it yourself to save thousands of dollars compared to hiring somebody, be sure to check out the OPS 1000. It's the first ever commercial grade system that you can buy as a DIY kit. Right now it's on sale with free shipping. And as always, thanks for watching. Goodbye.